So to that point, Rhonda, the idea of being creative and almost using this as an opportunity to try something new, I feel like Major League Baseball deserves a lot of credit there because it was, hey, okay, 7 inning double headers, and maybe we'll start, extra innings with a runner on second. To what extent do you feel like some of those will last, and to what extent do you feel like this has been an opportunity of sorts? Like, okay, we've been dealt this hand. Let's go ahead and make the best of it.
I think, to your point, I think everybody decided, if there ever was a year to try this out, let's do all of those things in this otherwise crazy year that we're going to have. There's going to be, the proverbial asterisk at the end of the season anyway. And really in the spirit of, trying to get the game in, keep the people healthy. We have the taxi squad in case you had a COVID positive test result come back. You could exchange players real quick, but I think what it did for the fans, and by the time we started playing, fans were clamoring for sports, any kind of sports, quite frankly. And so we were obviously happy to get back on board. But I think the players, the fans, there's nothing worse. I mean, at least I'm on the West Coast. You guys are on the East Coast, and when a baseball game goes into the the 12th or 15th inning or something like that, it's probably midnight your time zone. You're not even watching the end of the game. So the shorter games, the shorter doubleheader, so that we could get the number of games in, so that the standings meant something. Not one team with only 50 games completed and the other teams with 60. The universal DH, I think that has gotten overwhelming support. That'll be interesting. We're in the midst of a collective bargaining agreement. The current bargaining agreement expires in the end of 2021. There's some talk about extending that. I don't know how far that is. But all of these things are certainly going to come to fruition. The bottom line is the fans loved it. It made the fans stay engaged with the games, all of those things. Where it wasn't all these run-on games where everything's just depleted, and by the end of the game, you've got a center fielder pitching who loses the game, those kind of things. So a great time to try some of these things. But the fans love it. I think the players love it. Now it's just going to be, can we get it all built into the new CBA and monetarily compensated for all these changes?
Evan, one of the things that the NBA seemingly didn't have to worry about, at least to get the season started, was coming to an agreement on the finances, the whatever it was. And maybe it was the fact that it was a continuation of the season, or I wonder if it was a continuation of the relationship that the commissioner's office has with the Players Association. And so I wonder if you wouldn't mind maybe shedding some light into how that sort of level of trust is built. I'm not saying it was done quickly, but how we arrived to the point where Adam Silver could say, hey, no, we're going to do this bubble. You guys need to trust me. And Chris Paul and the Players Association said, yeah, we will.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a huge key to it. And echoing a comment from earlier, I think that constant engagement was also critical, because that level of engagement builds trust as well. And so if you had asked any of us on March 12th, do we think we're going to end up playing in a bubble? We would have said absolutely not. That was the idea of sort of the lockdown, the restrictions. That wasn't something we had contemplated. But we immediately formed a cross-sectional working team, a committee essentially across the league and the Players Association. And that group got together at a minimum weekly. And then we even divided further into 4 subgroups. So we looked at the health and safety piece, the operational piece, the broadcast piece, and then my area, the sort of schedule and format of competition. And so that committee had the Players Association, had direct players. Chris Paul was on every one of those calls, and we're directly talking about all of these issues, so that anything that concerned them, we would talk through, we would find middle ground. And ultimately, we had the same objective in mind, which was to safely finish a season, right? And so while we wouldn't have said, let's start in a bubble, and by the way, we probably wouldn't have been in Florida had we known the case rate was going to be what it was when we got there. But we made those decisions in May and said, this is the safest way for us to complete our season. This is the way we can prevent infection, prevent spread, maximize the economics, and maximize the competitive opportunity. And at that point, we immediately had buy-in from everyone, because it sort of, to your point, they saw the light as to what needed to be done to do this, and that level of trust was there. And then we had constant engagement once everyone was on the ground. And so it was the bubble experience on the day of Game 6 of the finals was wildly different than the bubble experience when everyone arrived on July 7th, because we were constantly evolving based on the feedback we were getting, whether it was around food or housing or equipment or testing, protocols, restrictions, all of that was just constantly moving as both the medical landscape changed and we understood more and more about the virus, but also as the players got further into that experience and made clear to us what needed to change or stay the same. And that was frankly the key to the success we had this summer.